Today we will be covering what context engineering is and why this is a big deal. Most of you know already prompt engineering, but what the fuck is context engineering? Let's get started. Today I have a very short and to the point presentation about this topic. If you want to learn more about it or if you want to actually access this, I will give you a link to download the presentation completely for free down below in the description. Go ahead, download it, you just put your email and you get it emailed. So, what is context engineering? So, this is the art of providing an LLM with all of the necessary context. Context means information in this case. So, as we all know, current LLMs and the future ones are very smart. But a lot of times what they do is they put out incorrect statements and answers. This we usually call hallucination. And the main reason for this is the lack of context. That way they are not grounded in truths and they make silly guesses. So this is a very new term. It came out from Karpathy and CEO of Shopify, which is a major platform of e-commerce. So what is the idea is providing all of the necessary information for the task at hand to the LLM. That means that usually current LLMs can actually provide the correct answer given good enough and enough information. So this is probably one of the one or two things that we lack for true AGI. So the idea is that you carefully fill the context window, meaning the input of the LLM, with the right information at each step. And this is major steps beyond simple prompt crafting and prompt engineering. And we're going to see exactly more how you can do it, what are the differences. Stay tuned, stay around, this is a very nice presentation. So this is a holistic strategy of how we interact with LLMs. And I think this is a game changer when more people understand it, because loads of people are not able to extract the power of LLMs because they don't know, first of all, what prompt engineering is, and second, how to enhance the context of the LLM, which in the future will be more automated. Already there are steps done. For example, we have long-term memory. We've got various tools that LLMs can use. We got the user prompt where prompt engineering is happening on. We have state and history of conversation. We have RAG, which is pretty much most of these things like state and history and long-term memory. And of course, we've got the instructions, which is the system prompt. And again, this is again part of prompt engineering. So essentially, AI agents, their power is that instead of just doing prompt engineering, they also do context engineering. They bring more context using tools. That's the main benefit of AI agents, and that's what is happening in the past year. So let me give you a very simple example of what context engineering is. Let's say that you are on ChatGPT and you don't have internet search on and you want to search a topic that happened today. Because this is not possible for LLM to know because it was trained on data 5 months, a year ago, it doesn't know what happens today. But by opening up this online search tool, which is just a simple function, the LLM is able to enhance its context by searching the internet, gathering the information regarding your topic for today, compiling a bunch of them, summarizing them, doing whatever it needs to do, and using that extra context through using tools, because it's an AI agent, it can use tool like Google search, it gives you the actual response you want. This is the simplest example. You could have context like using RAG, you could have like a book and you say, okay, does this book reference this? Maybe you have created a RAG system, a database that holds all of the book, which doesn't fit into a single LLM, and the LLM can go and search this database and see if this book actually has mentioned the information you want, and you get the general idea. This is simply what context engineering is and why this is so powerful and so important and how it has improved AI agents, LLMs, and how we use all of this today. So really, this is just a term. It has been happening for at least a year, maybe 2 years already inside the labs, so it's nothing super new. So don't have it as a myth, it's just a term. So how is this bringing revolutions? So we no longer really have model failures. Most of the failures are context failures. The AI agent, the LLM, doesn't have enough information to solve your specific task. So the better the context, meaning the input you give to the LLM, the information you feed the LLM before it responds to your answer, to your query, is super important. And this is where mostly LLMs right now fail. And it's not about simple prompts. So to effectively use current AI, we need clever prompts, okay, but we also need context, using the history of the chat, using external tools, retrieving information, and much more. For example, a tool would be a Python interpreter, which can run code, see if the result is correct, is as intended, and then continue. So this could be another tool. There are so many tools. Maybe it's a scientific simulator where you can put the variables in, the LLM can put them, get the output, and do an analysis that way. The amount of tools that you can use with AI is only going to grow. MCP servers, which have been quite famous for the past 6 months, create a universal standard of actually connecting tools with LLMs and allows the tools as much as possible to use these tools correctly. So these are one of the directions that help us easily access external tools with any kind of LLM and enhance our context of the LLM we want to use. Okay, so that's another very important example. So again, for industry, this is super important because it makes a difference between a cheap demo and a magical product. All right, so I want us to see a little bit this graph more. So this is a comparison of prompt engineering and context. So in terms of mindset, prompt engineering is about crafting clear instructions. Whereas on context engineering, what we care about is to design the whole thought process flow. Also, the scope is about a single output pair in terms of the prompt, whereas on the context, it's about everything the model sees. So you can see that this is a more expanded, technique that is used, and the improvements are a lot more. Repeatability. Prompt engineering is mostly hit or miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And in my opinion, prompt engineering can happen through LLMs right now completely greatly. Like all of the major reasoning LLMs, or for example, the deep research tools, do a step automatically predefined that create a plan for your query, which is essentially prompt engineering, automated by the AI. If you have used the image or video generators, they always have a button to optimize the prompt. So this is pretty much solved. You can ask an LLM to optimize its prompt, it's going to do it automatically, and you can use this answer or just click the button of a tool and you're good to go. It's mostly what you need. The second thing about context is that it is designed for consistency across many users. If you have internet search, it can be used across multiple users. If you have Python interpreter connect to the LLM, again, can be used by many users. Tools. So on tools, you've got so many tools. In prompt engineering, it's just the chat message that you put to the LLM. Whereas on the context, you have memory module, like we said, databases, which is again RAG systems. It could be memory modules of the chat you are in, of past chats, of projects. Maybe you work on a project and you have all of this context saved into memory, which is again a RAG system. And you also have API chaining. You can think of it like MCP servers, APIs that can be used by LLMs. That's what MCPs are. APIs created for LLMs. Okay. And then you have longevity. So prompt engineering is, okay, I want to do this task very well. Let me optimize this prompt. Let's give the model a very good detailed instructions of what we want to do, what our plan is, what our specifications are. We're good to go. Whereas on context, it's about long-running workflows with complex state. You always want to have the LLM able to gather the relative information, especially on large code bases, on complex projects. This is what allows the LLMs to work even better. So, prompt engineering versus context engineering. Prompt engineering is just a small part of context engineering. So, essentially, prompt engineering is what you say to the model at the moment in time. Whereas context engineering is what the model knows in general, okay? So you can think of prompt engineering being inside the whole context engineering, okay? Of course, prompt engineering is still important, but it is quite well automated by AI, in my opinion, right now. So the focus of prompt engineering is crafting the perfect set of instructions in a single text of string. Again, the scope is single interactions, it's about immediate requests, and it's simpler. It's about wording, examples, plans, whatever. Whereas on context engineering, you build systems that allow the AI to get the information it needs, probably through memory, through RAG, through tools. It's mostly workflow, and you usually want to use it when you have multiple interactions and you have a very big, complex project for which you will be working a week, a month, 2 months on, maybe a year. Well, good luck with that with current technology. And it's about the system prompt, the user input, the chat history, memory retrieved information, tools, structured outputs. It's all the things we've told. So it's a lot more complex. It requires designing systems, but it's really not that complex, in all honesty. Well, if you're a coder and you write Python, having a Python interpreter as a tool for your AI tool is great. Having a requirements.txt showing you the exact steps, text tags you use, maybe a mapping of the files is also great. Having a RAG, a simple RAG for your code base is also great. So let's see which are the components of the context. It's the system prompt and instructions. This is, again, in my opinion, part of the prompt engineering. How you optimize your system prompt to understand, for example, I am an AI scientist expert. Okay, so that's a system prompt. The user input is what you ask the LLM. This LLM, which was baptized as an AI expert, an AI scientist expert. State and history. Okay, so this remembers the current conversation and can include past user interactions and model responses. So it can have an understanding of your current chat and the history of the chat in general. The long-term memory is the knowledge base. It's when the model has understand the user preferences through previous interactions. It can summarize the projects inside a single big project. Again, this is very connected to state and history, and you can understand that state and history is about the current chat, whereas long-term is about all of the chats and the user in general, the whole interaction of the system with the user. RAG, again, enables long-term memory and state history, and you can also use it to have knowledge from documents, databases, APIs, whatever you want. So RAG is a little bit more general, but RAG is used also for the memory parts. Available tools is the tools that can be used by the LLM, as we've said, internet search, or for example, a Python interpreter or a scientific calculator, whatever you think, okay? And finally, structured output is the format of the model's responses. So you can define specific formats of the LLM model's response. So this will allow you to automate the processes. So this is like structuring and creating an API for the responses of the model. Whatever, who cares? So this is an example of context engineering. And by the way, this presentation was created by Manus AI. I have done just 2 small changes on the images. Nothing else. This is completely AI generated. And Manus is one of the best models in doing context engineering. They're able to search the internet, browse the web, browse web pages using browser use. Actually, they connects to a digital browser and uses it. It's amazing. So what this does? So this is a scheduler agent, and it's about setting up a simple meeting. So hey, check if you're around for a quick sync tomorrow. So this is what the user says. And the agent says, thank you, tomorrow works for me, blah, blah, blah. So a magical product which would use context would see the calendar information. So it would show when it can have past emails to have the appropriate tone. Maybe it's your friend, you want to talk a little bit more chill with him, or maybe he's a supervisor, so you want to be more formal. It can have a contact list. For example, maybe this is a key partnership, so he can identify it as is and give precedence to this meeting on the calendar. And it can have a tool to send, for example, Google Meet invites. So you may, end up with a Google Meet, and it can say the exact hour, seeing your calendar, and it can send the invite or accept an invite. So this back and forth is a lot better. And for example, for a support agent, a simple support agent, will give you a generic answer, whereas a magical agent with context engineering can see your detailed subscription level information. It can go and see your logs on your account, see the current issues, it can see the troubleshooting tools, and it could try potentially and see if your error is obvious through the error log, or if it's a known issue in the database, it can gather that, or just try and give you some other tips through internet search or whatever. So you can see the big difference in the quality of the input the LLMs receive, because the LLMs under the hood, they're smart enough to do this kind of simple jobs like closing meetings or being assistants. They're good, but they need the exact information humans have. So that's the gap right now to AGI. Opening up these tools to be used by LLMs in an effective, fast way. So best practices. You need to be strategic about the knowledge base selection. Not all of the information is relevant for the task, and maybe adding irrelevant information may be bad for your actual responses. So try to be as relevant as possible. Now, about context ordering and compression. So current LLMs don't have infinite context. They usually have hundreds of thousands of tokens, up to millions. Okay, so you need to, compress your information when you can. All right, maybe you can add them to a database using RAG, or maybe you can do a summarization and continue to the next prompt. So that's very important. Also, effective memory management. Your database could go out of hand through the usage increase. Okay, and you also don't always want to save everything in long memory. Maybe you want a RAG that is for short-term memory and it clears up. Maybe it summarizes some stuff and puts them on long memory and continues. Essentially, the more we build LLMs and AI agents closer to how humans think, act, and the tools they've got, the way we think, the way we save information, the better these things become, and the road is pretty clear. We have the tools, we have the expertise, it's just time for AGI. 6 months, maybe a year at most. Workflow engineering. You want to break complex tasks into focused steps, okay? So this is very important. The more complex the task, the more context it needs. And usually, on a complex task, not all of the context is relevant for all of the subtasks. And LLMs are amazingly good to solving small tasks. You also give them the extra information for each small task. 99% you are going to have the correct answer on real world tasks. Maybe not on the most difficult projects on the frontiers of AI or mathematics, but for most daily tasks, given small, clear tasks through prompt engineering, and also allowing these tools to allowing LLMs to use tools for the task relative to the task, they're going to give you the correct answer 99% of the times. That's also my experience as a machine learning engineer in a startup. It's very rare for LLMs to bring me a wrong answer. Maybe it's not 100% correct, but it's just 1% of the exact thing I want. And that 1%, I can do it through another prompt. So instead of a single shot interaction, on 2 shot interactions, we're good to go. So pitfalls. Context overload. Always only add the necessary information. Don't exceed the context windows with relevant information. Poor formatting. It's very important to have good format. In my opinion, it's not that important. Static context. You also want to adapt your context as the task evolves, so it always has the relevant information. You always want to evaluate these AI tools if you create them. If you create a tool for a client using context engineering, you always want to evaluate it, the edge cases. And yeah, I would say this is pretty much it. And of course, make sure to see the context window of the agent you use, because different agents have different context windows and tools. So finally, key conclusions. This is system level approach. Context engineering is a system level approach. Goes beyond prompt engineering and focuses on providing the right information in the right format at the right time. Right information, relevant information at the exact correct moment. The quality of the context is now the primary determinant of LLM performance. It's no longer about the model, it's about the context. But up till now, it's not automated. Context engineering is at its first steps. So you need to think about system prompts, user inputs, memory, tools, retrieved information, structured outputs. These are the main things you want to look at right now. Focus on what context you select, how you format it, how your workflow is going to get the information. Try to avoid pitfalls like context overload, poor organization exceeding contexts, and you will be good to go. You are going to see performance from AI that you never thought about. And some things about the future, LLMs continue to improve their context windows. They become larger and larger. And also LLMs on their basis become more capable. I completely disagree with AI that context engineering will become a more critical skill. It's going to be more automated and more simple, just exactly as prompt engineering is at this point. So the frontier right now is making these things work efficiently, reliably, and intelligently on complex real-world applications. And that's what context engineering allows. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, we will have completely automated the context engineering part. MCPs will be over the web. 99% of available tools will be able to be used automatically by any AI in this world. The SaaS companies will completely shift their products into being used by AI. This is such a major point. If you have a SaaS software, create MCP servers, prepare it for use from AI. This is so important. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.